Welcome back. So we're going to have a look at the Fluent API now because we need a way in our code to start mapping relations and tables in our SQL database for NT Framework Core. And we do that using the Fluent API. Now there are different ways of doing this. I'll get back to that. But for now, look at this setup we have right here. We have, in my case, an order that has a relation to customer. And a customer has a 0 to many relation where an order has a 1 relation to the customer, right? So you could read it like this: a customer can have 0 to many orders, and an order needs at least 1 customer. Now that I showed you last lesson that forced me to kind of delete all the orders when I deleted a customer. Now I don't want that anymore. So I'm going to try and figure out how with the Fluent API I can switch this to a 0 to 1 instead of a 1 constraint, because that would mean that an order can still exist even though the customer has been deleted. It would just be an anonymous order, right? So that's what I want to do, so we don't have to delete our customers. So how do we do that? Well, we need to try and figure out how with the entity framework we can actually start working with something called the Fluent API. And I have found a page here. This is another page than what I showed earlier, ntframeworkcore.com. I just want to show you guys as many pages as possible where you can find information, because there's a lot of great pages around the NT Framework Core that you can go and read up on, right? So here's just a basic setup of the Fluent API that we're going to work with. And notice right here how simple it is to get started with the Fluent API. You pretty much just have to jump into your context. In our case, I have the customer app context, and there I need to override something called on-model creation. That's what I need to start working with. And with that setup right here, I can start just modeling my entire table. And this lesson, what we're going to model is we're going to model this relation right here, and then we're going to change this from 1 to 0 to 1. And you have to notice that out of the box, if I don't do anything, because a customer in my objects, the customer has a list of orders and the order has a single customer. This is just mapped behind the scenes automatically with the NT framework. But I now want to customize it even further, so that's why I kind of need to start using some information from this Fluent API right here. So step 1 is going to be adding this method inside the store context. So let's just try and jump into our code right here and jump into our context, which is of course under our infrastructure data. And there what I'm going to do is I'm going to just write override just to kind of find the methods that are available. So that's an easy way to look at all the methods that you can override in a class. And I'll say on model creation. Now that's the one I want to override right here. So now we have what we call the model builder. And think of the model builder as a way for you to draw these maps by writing C#. So you can actually write a customer. Let's start here. An order has 1 customer with many orders. So you can start writing, and let me show what I mean. You can start writing and creating these tables in your code. That's pretty amazing. So let's just try and do it. We'll start out by just saying, dear model builder, I want to start somewhere. I want to start with some entity. And the entity I want to start with is going to be an order. That's the one I want to map from. That order is going to have 1, has 1. And what is an order going to have? It's going to have 1 customer. So I'll say o.customer, right? With many. So the order, the customer has many orders, right? So now we have a customer right here, and he has many orders. There we go. Now this is the completely basic mapping, right? I did right here. So notice, if you read the code, it should make sense. We start at the order entity, pretty much meaning that we're starting in the orders table. So let me try and jump over here. Now we are here. Right? We're starting in the orders table. And the first thing I want to map is this relation down here. So that's the 1 down here. And I do that by saying has 1 customer, right? That makes sense. So an order has 1 customer, right? And then we're down here now. So that's why I can say with many, and then I actually have the customer, and I can say he has a list of orders, right, in the code. So the customer has a list of orders. So now we kind of made the relation right here, the 1 to many. Now we wanted to change that a little bit because we weren't satisfied with 1 to many. We wanted it to be a 0 to 1 to 0 to many. So we'll do one more thing, and that is call something else on delete right here. And that pretty much means that how will we handle this when you try to delete a customer? And you saw last lesson that if I tried it, I would actually get an exception thrown that I would have foreign key constraint that would be broken if I deleted a customer. Now I want to change this. I want to ask for the delete behavior of set null. Pretty much meaning that if you delete a customer, instead of actually throwing an exception for me, you're going to set the ID for the customer to null inside the order. So the order will remain you'll just set a null value as the customer. Now you notice there was another delete behavior we had called cascade, for instance. Now the cascade one could be dangerous because cascade delete might mean that you're going to delete the order automatically, and maybe the order deletes the products automatically, that deletes their orders, that deletes the customer. So you might get a never-ending cascade delete through your database and remove most of your data. So I don't encourage you to use cascade delete unless you know what you're doing. Just use set null, and then you can manually delete whatever you want to delete. So that's how easy it was. That was your first tryout of the actual Fluent API, right? And you can go and read a lot more about the Fluent API in here. We're going to use it even more, but this is just a very basic introduction right here for the Fluent API, just setting up our first tables. So now that we've that set up, this relation right here with a 0 to 1 instead of a 1, we can actually next lesson try and change our delete a little bit. See you next time, have fun.